The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSRTV, your home for sim racing.
Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to tonight's coverage of the season finale of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking here on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. We are live tonight from Homestead Miami Speedway in Homestead, Florida for the 36th and final race of the 2017 season. Good evening to you all. I am James Pike. Alongside me in the booth is my partner in crime, Brian Macklin. Down in the production trailer is the lovely and talented as ever Cisco Scarmuzza. And Brian, we've come all the way from Daytona in February. We've run for 36 weeks, gone on through the spring and the summer and the fall, and we are here in sunny South Florida, where tonight one of Dylan Jones, David Washington, David Comstock, or Andrew Freenage will be crowned the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series champion. You excited?
I'm excited, but I'm also a little disappointed. You hate to see the season come to an end, and tonight is that moment. Fortunately, we do have the Icebreaker Series coming up in a couple of weeks, but it's going to be absolutely wild tonight, and you see the points on your screen right now, and the big focus, like you mentioned, is going to be those four drivers that are fighting for the championship here tonight, and these guys are going to be going at it from the drop of the green flag to the time they get to the checkered flag here tonight, and it doesn't surprise me at all that they're all kind of really close on the qualifying board right now. The only car that we have not seen turn a lap out of the Final Four is Dylan Jones, but David Comstock, David Washington are 4th and 5th, and then you got Andrew Freenage in 7th. These guys will be all over each other all night long.
And just so it's perfectly clear, those four drivers have all been set on equal points. This is a heads-up race. Whichever driver of those four finishes highest in the running order wins the title. We've seen in the Cup Series in real life that since the playoff format that we currently have was instituted in 2014, you've had to go out and win this race. That hasn't necessarily always been the case here in the Full Throttle Cup Series, but Macklin, I think with the level of talent that we have amongst those four guys, I would be very surprised if our champion didn't end up being our race winner as well.
Well, I think much like we've seen in the Monster Energy Cup Series, these guys raise to the occasion when it matters the most, and we saw that yesterday. We saw Kyle Larson leading the race for the most part of the deal, but when it came down to it, Martin Truex and Kyle Busch were out front, and that's how it went. You're going to see something very similar here tonight. There are several drivers in this field that would love to play spoiler and go out here and win this race and take that victory away from one of these championship drivers. Brandon Bowie, Anthony DeBarro, Nelson Rivera, these are drivers that have nothing to lose. They'd love to go out here and win, but these four drivers have been the cream of the crop all season long, and when it comes down to it, I expect that all four of them will be at the front battling for the victory, like you mentioned, and they have to have that mentality. You have to come into this race thinking that your only opportunity to win the championship is to go out and win this race.
I think it's also important to note on top of all of that this is not necessarily a track where you've got to bump and move someone out of the way in order to be successful. This is a track where you have multiple racing groups because of the progressive banking, and there are a lot of different ways that you can run the corners here. The variety of ways in which you can tackle the turns is something that I think is very unique to Homestead amongst the tracks on the Full Throttle Cup Series schedule. And that, I think, will make for some really entertaining racing, especially on restarts. And if we get a really tight race towards the end, you'll have room to see these guys fan out and go for the title heads up.
And you just got an opportunity to ride on board with the number 46 of Sean Casto, just giving you an idea of what this track is like. And this is one of the best tracks on the circuit, in my opinion, because of how the track changes throughout the race. These guys will start on the bottom on these restarts and on fresh tires, but as the tires wear out and as the grip levels go away, they're going to start moving up the racetrack. And by the end of a long green flag run, you're going to see them inches off the wall down in turns 1 and 2, and pretty close to the wall down in 3 and 4, depending on your driving style. It's going to be a very exciting race, and like you mentioned, James, this isn't the track that you would expect a bump and run. However, these guys could get aggressive if that's what it comes down to at the end of the race. I would not be a bit surprised to see these guys lay the bumper to one another if that's what it takes to win the championship.
We've got 125 laps coming up to find out what happens. But at this point, qualifying has concluded, and it is time to bring you our final LSRTV starting grid for the 2017 Full Throttle Cup Series season. Brandon Bowie is your pole sitter for tonight's race with a time of 30.115 seconds. Dylan Jones is the highest qualified of the championship 4. He'll start outside of the front row in P2. Anthony DeBarro will roll off tonight from the 3rd position. 4th is where the number 7 of Nelson Rivera will start tonight. David Comstock, another one of the Championship 4, will begin tonight from 5th. David Washington is the 3rd man in the Championship 4, hunting for the title. He'll start from 6th. Trevor Rompolo will look to bookend the season with victories at Daytona and at Homestead. He'll start 7th. Andrew Freenars, the slowest in the Championship 4, but right on up there as well. He'll start 8th. Gabe Wood and Shane Ewing round out the top 10 in the starting grid.
Daniel Eberhardt will start in the 11th position here tonight, and then the wily veteran Dwayne Vincent will start P12. Eric Stanford will start from the 13th position, and then we have Tanner Tallarico starting 14th. Nick Silver will start in the 15th position, and then we have Austin Koop starting 16th. 17th will go to Lionel Calisto. Sean Boundy is 18th, and we have Sean Casto in 19th, and Ross Cato rounds out the top 20.
Starting 21st will be Corey Wolf. John Abbott begins from 22nd. Bruce Pearson in the 22 is the last car to take time tonight. He'll start 23rd. Chris Hurlow in the 87 will start on a provisional on 24th. And 25th, rounding out the field, will be longtime RSR Full Throttle Cup Series veteran Douglas Wyatt. Will be retiring after tonight's race, so keep an eye out for this special Parts America DW-inspired paint scheme, especially on the deck lid. Got a special message for RSR and everybody who's watched that 33 pilot these tracks for the many, many years he's competed in the Full Throttle Cup Series. And a big congratulations to Douglas on a fantastic career. So there's your starting grid for tonight's race, and we will flip to our track facts. Now that you know who is competing for the championship, we'll go for 125 laps around this 1.5 mile speedway, which broke ground in 1993 as a way to build back the Homestead community after the wrath of Hurricane Andrew came through. Been open since 1995. We'll go for 187.5 miles tonight. After all is said and done, we'll have ourselves a champion. 18 to 20 degrees of banking in the corners. It gets progressively higher as you get higher up the racetrack. You'll see a lot of drivers run the wall this evening, and 3 degrees of banking in the straights for this, the season finale of the Full Throttle Cup Series here on LSR TV. Brandon Bowie gets on the loud pedal, and we are underway here from South Florida. Bowie takes off with a really, really nice start. He will get us going in the final race of the 2017 season. Dylan Jones immediately gets to the bottom, goes to 2nd. Anthony DeBarro in 3rd. Comstock to 4th as they make their way down the back straightaway for the first time.
And you can see Anthony DeBarro looks to the inside, and actually he's letting go the number 42 of David Comstock, so that's going to move Comstock up to 3rd immediately. Nelson Rivera right behind them goes way high in the middle of 3 and 4 and will give up a couple of positions. He's now going to be trying to fend off. Back there, I believe that's David Washington right behind him. Actually, that's Andrew Freenars right behind him. So these guys going at it back here for the 7th and 8th position already. And Andrew Freenars, while it's not in any situation is it time for him to panic, he's already looking at the 3 guys guys he's chasing, and they're already starting to pull away from him. So he is battling hard, trying to get underneath the bottom of the number 7 of Nelson Rivera. He makes that move and clears the 7 to move up into that 6th position.
Freenar is running the Dale Earnhardt Jr. colors from one night ago. We saw Jr. run that famous red and black paint scheme that he was associated with in the early years of his career one more time, and Freenar is honoring the fan favorite of the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series for nearly 2 decades now in his quest to bring home a first ever Full Throttle Cup Series championship. But he's got work to do. David Washington's still ahead of him, and David Comstock is still ahead of both of those, and Dylan Jones is still ahead of everybody in the championship 4, only behind Brandon Bowie in the 44 at the moment.
And the thing that Dylan Jones has to be mindful of right now is Brandon Bowie is not that important to him. While winning the race is what he wants, he needs to hold off the 3 behind him. But he's not thinking about that right now as he goes to the inside of Brandon Bowie for the lead in the middle of 3 and 4. Not quite going to have the run he needs coming off the corner as Bowie is able to carry that speed off the outside line and clears Dylan Jones to hold on to the race lead. That allowed David Comstock to get right on the back bumper of the 11 machine, and now he goes to the bottom in 1 and 2, trying to take the inside line to see if he can't take that 2nd position away. But once again, the outside line carries the speed, and Dylan Jones maintains 2nd position, and now he goes back for the lead as they head to turn 3.
Huge run for Dylan Jones down the back straightaway. You said it right there when they were in 1 and 2, Macklin. These drivers get such a good line if they run right up against the wall. That is the fastest place to be on this racetrack, and you saw what it did for Dylan Jones. He nearly was able to clear Brandon Bowie solely off of the run he got in staying on the outside line there through 1 and 2 last time by. So something that we'll have to watch, especially as the tires start to fade, because tire fall off is something that we didn't talk about in pre-race, but we absolutely need to hit on here. You will see it massively come into play over the course of a long green flag run.
Absolutely. I ran in the NIS official series over the last week or so, and after about 15 laps on these tires, they begin to fall off by more than a second. And if you can get 40 laps on the tires, you're running almost 3 seconds of a lap slower than what you were in qualifying. So tires will absolutely be detrimental. And now we have a change potentially for the lead as Comstock got a great run coming off of turn 2. He gets to the outside of Brandon Bowie and is going to try to take that race lead away from him. He's going to once again run the high side down in 3 and 4. And he's got the speed coming off the corner, and it looks like he's going to beat the 44 to the stripe. Indeed he will, so new leader goes to the 42 of David Comstock.
Working lap 8 now, and David Comstock goes to the point, looking to back up his icebreaker title from 2016-2017 with a Full Throttle Cup Series title to go back-to-back in RSR competition and sweep 2017 in that 42 machine. Anthony Navarro will follow suit behind the 42. He's already to the outside of Brandon Bowie, trying to take the 2nd position away, and it looks like Dylan Jones and David Washington are going to follow the 99 and try and use that top side to send Brandon Bowie back to the 4th position.
And Bowie is stuck on the bottom of the racetrack right now, and that's indeed what's going to happen to him as now Dylan Jones carries that momentum, is going to go to the outside and easily makes the pass. It looked like for a second David Washington was going to be able to make that move as well. However, he's not quite close enough, but this might be his opportunity here as it looks like that number 44 got stuck on the bottom once again. But he's got the opportunity to move up in front of the 98 if he wants to, but he elects to stay on the bottom of the racetrack and will give that line to David Washington now as they work through turns 1 and 2, and that's going to give him the opportunity to move into that 4th position, and he too will carry that speed off the corner, and it looks like he's going to take that 4th position now and starting to inch his way closer to these 3 in front of him. He's got a little bit of work to do, but he's definitely on the charge here in the early stages of this thing.
So Bowie back to the 5th position. Let's see if he slides up in front of Andrew Freenars, who's made his way up to the 6th spot. 44 will do just that. So Freenars has a little bit of work to do, but he's managed to climb up from that starting spot there. Started in 8th, now up to 6th. Going to try and work his way into the top 5, and then it's all about running down everybody else in the championship 4. Save for Anthony Navarro, who currently sits in the 2nd spot, but it might not be for long because here comes Dylan Jones underneath the 99 machine.
And Dylan Jones just not quite able to get that run off the bottom of the racetrack. That's going to be the challenge all night long, especially now that we have 12 laps on the tires. The bottom of the racetrack's not going to be the lane to go to try to make a pass. You almost have to wait for the guy in front of you to make a mistake and try to get to his outside, but that's not something that's going to be very easy to do. This is where patience are really going to be important for these Championship 4 drivers in order to keep themselves in the hunt throughout the entire night. And you can see Dylan Jones, he goes to the bottom of the racetrack once again, but once again, Anthony DeBarro is able to carry that speed off the corner and is able to defend for that second position. And now they're actually staying side by side as they get to turns 1 and 2. But again, it looks like that number 99 is going to have the run, and indeed he will. Coming off the corner, he's going to clear the 11 to hold on to that second position.
How hard do you work the 11 if you're the 99 machine, and how much do you want to race for this victory and maybe get in the championship mix yourself? We saw a little bit of that over the weekend. You think of Ryan Preece and what happened between he and William Byron and Elliott Sadler, and Kyle Larson was and was not, I suppose, in a way. He chose to stay out of it between Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch last night, but that certainly is a possibility that I think the drivers in the Championship 4 need to be aware of. That yes, they are racing for the championship, but this is only a race within a race, and everybody else out there still wants to go get that race victory. DeBarro is absolutely no exception. He's shown plenty of speed at times throughout 2017 and is yet to have a victory this season to show for it. So DeBarro, I know, would love to get up to victory lane and spoil the party, and I think for everybody else, you're just going to have to try and find a way around him and outrace him and be faster.
And it's also worth noting that while David Comstock doesn't have any teammates racing in the Final Four for this championship, Anthony DeBarro is his teammate here. And while he may not be racing for the championship, he can certainly try to help David win this championship by holding back his competitors. If he can keep the 11 at bay behind him and he can keep the 98 and the 88 back there, that makes it a little bit easier for David Comstock. And so you have to believe that's going to be in the head of the number 99 machine all night long, trying to help his teammate, but also trying to see if he can put himself in a position to win the race. These two, I think, will work together through most of the night. But once, like you said, once it gets down to the end of this thing, you have to believe that he's going to be going after that win. He has not had the season that he's wanted, and it would be a great way to end a pretty rough season for those guys if he could get a win.
If he could get a win. He's also the only other Chevrolet up there. Everybody else in Fords. You see all the Aegis Motorsports drivers. That team that has dominated the 2017 Full Throttle Cup Series season by every measure. You've got them in Fords, at least amongst the Championship 4 drivers, with David Washington and Dylan Jones right there, and Andrew Friedars, who's in the Power Tech machine there. Very, very close alliance with Aegis, also in a Ford, but now a battle for the race lead, and they might just take it 3 wide down the front straightaway. I think Comstock might have gotten loose, had to back out of it to keep the car from going into the wall. He'll slide up the racetrack. DeBarro will clear him. Can Jones get underneath Anthony DeBarro and go take the race lead? DeBarro to the point for now, but they're side by side down the back straightaway.
That all started when Comstock tried to run the extreme high line down in 3 and 4. He was trying to run inches off the wall, and I think he got a little too close and maybe made contact with that wall and opened the door for both DeBarro and Dylan Jones to get beside him, and that is ultimately what ended up costing him the race lead. Now he has to go back on the charge to try to get back around the 11 machine. He's right on the back bumper, but not going to have it easy now because he's in that situation where he has to go to the bottom to try to make a pass, and we've seen all night long already just how difficult that is to do. So he's going to have to try to figure something out here to try to get back by the 11 machine. But right now he's settled in the 3rd position, and he has the number 98 of David Washington beginning to close in on him as well. I believe Comstock might have went a little too hard in this run, and I think his tires are beginning to fade now that we've ran almost 20 laps.
So Comstock's starting to fade. DeBarro now is your race leader. Jones to 2nd, and David Washington is now closing on the rear bumper of that 42 machine. Watch out for Washington and the Ted Christopher Memorial paint scheme, and a great tribute to one of the greatest modified drivers of all time who lost his life earlier this summer in a tragic loss of the racing community. What a way to honor the number 13 machine if Washington could find a way to go win this championship or maybe even win this race. First step, though, for him on that checklist is to get around the 42 and go get third, and he is now underneath David Comstock, trying to go take that position away from the 42.
Wasn't quite able to make that move happen, though, as he fell back in line behind the number 42 machine. And I think at this point, David is holding David Washington up because he just cannot get off of these corners the way these guys around him can. It really looks like he is struggling for momentum and for grip coming off the corner, and that's where these guys are getting that big run. They're able to get to his door, and he's just able to defend at this point because they just don't have the speed on the bottom of the racetrack. But you can see right here, David Washington is trying to make the inside line work. He's able to stay pretty even with the 42 this time. If he can stay to his door down here in 3 and 4, he might have a shot, and he's going to stay pretty close, and he goes all the way to the bottom of the racetrack trying to make that move, and he's almost got him clear, but it looks like Comstock's going to fight back on the outside line, and that momentum is going to carry him back ahead of the 98 and keep him in that third position.
So while they go side by side, we'll look just a little bit further up and take an eye and see what Anthony DeBarro and Dylan Jones are up to, because DeBarro's getting pressure from Jones and that 11 machine from all over the place. Jones just needling away at the back bumper of the 99 machine. Hasn't forced DeBarro into any sort of mistake yet, but Jones has speed and is coming, and I wonder if it might be a case of DeBarro trying to take his lane away, but Jones goes all the way to the bottom of the racetrack to try and make it happen. Can't tell if the 11's going to be able to slide up in front of the 99, but it might be a case where DeBarro's just playing the Martin Truex Jr. game from last night and taking away Jones's line. Jones, I think, has more speed than DeBarro at the moment, but so long as the 99 runs right where the 11 is, the 11 won't be able to get around the 99.
And when you're the lead car and you're being chased by a guy like this is exactly what you have to do. You change what you're doing in order to try to hold them off, and that's exactly what we've seen Anthony DeBarro do. The problem is now Dylan Jones is right on the bottom of the racetrack and almost makes contact with the 99 in the middle of the corner. He got very close to that left rear corner panel, but did not make the contact, and now he got a great run coming off the corner. That time stays even with DeBarro as they head to turn 3, and now sails it off into the bottom of the racetrack, but DeBarro pinches him down, is trying to hold him back and see if he can't use that pinch and that momentum to hold on to the race lead. Side by side at the stripe, I believe Jones is going to have the advantage, but they're still battling hard as they head down into turn 1.
Jones did lead that lap last time by, so new race leader technically speaking, but he does not have the 99 clear, and for what it's worth, the Davids behind those two haven't managed to clear each other either. So basically, two battles here side by side for the race lead and for third at the front of the field. DeBarro still trying to pinch the 11 machine. Can Jones clear this time by? Not quite. It was very, very close, maybe within half a foot of Jones being able to throw that rear bumper of the 11 in front of the 99 machine. Could he do it coming out of 2? No, not yet. DeBarro's still there, still hanging on, and Jones tried to do it and then got sideways. I don't know if there might have been a little bit of netcode or contact or something there, but the 11 went all the way down to the bottom of the racetrack, and all of a sudden he's back behind Anthony DeBarro.
And now all that work he's done, he's got to start over again as he's back behind to the left rear quarter panel of the 99 as they head to the corner. And he was doing so good on the bottom of the racetrack. I was really impressed with how he was able to make the bottom work. And he's doing it once again as he carries a lot of momentum through the middle of 1 and 2 and almost gets clear of the 99, but DeBarro fights back. They almost make contact again, and DeBarro is able to hold on once again on the outside line. But Dylan Jones is just not giving up this fight. And like you mentioned just a couple of moments ago, the two Davids are still side by side right behind them. This is some incredible racing going on in the front 4 positions, and you can see just how much this all means to them. David Washington right behind these guys. He has been working on the back of David Comstock for the last 10 laps or so, and much like we've seen with the 11, just has not been able to get clear on the bottom of the racetrack, but he continues to fight hard back there for that 3rd and 4th position.
If anything, that's made the top 5, and especially the back half of the top 5, more interesting, because you got Brandon Bowie, Daniel Eberhardt in the 90, and Andrew Farinas, who have all come up to the rear bumper of that battle between the Davids, and I think DeBarro might have clicked the wall right in front of everybody here. Maybe a slight bit of damage to the 99, still has the race lead though, but long and short of all of these battles is that it's bunched the top basically 7 up by Sardines. Everybody's within about a second of this, so not really a lot of breathing room. If you make a mistake and end up clipping someone, we might see 2, 3, or 4 cars get caught up in something very big.
Absolutely, and it's worth noting that David Washington was finally able to get around the 42 of David Comstock, moves him into the 3rd position, and now Comstock is trying to fight off Brandon Bowie in that 44 machine. He was able to hold on the outside line for the time being, but it really looks like that 42 has begun to fade the longer this run has got, as he is just continuing to drop back, and it's almost becoming a point where you have to wonder if he's going to consider pitting to try to get some fresh tires and maybe get an advantage on these guys ahead of him by coming to pit road, because right now these guys are running over 2.5 seconds off what they ran in qualifying, and that's just how much tires would mean if he came to pit road. Meanwhile, the battle is back on for the race lead. Dylan Jones back on the bottom of the racetrack trying to make something happen, but Anthony DeBarro staying on the outside line and just doing everything he can to hang on to that race lead.
DeBarro hanging tough on the high side. Can Jones clearing this time by? No. DeBarro still stays there. And all the while this is happening, David Washington, now that he's finally cleared David Comstock, is coming up to the front of the field. This is going to be a 3-car battle here within just a few moments. But the race lead battle is finally settled as Dylan Jones is able to clear Anthony DeBarro. So the 11 car now to the point. It'll be on David Washington to get around DeBarro for second next.
And that's exactly what he's going to try to do as he goes to the bottom of the racetrack. And while that's going on, I just want to take a chance to update on Andrew Freenars. He started back in that 8th position. He's up to 6th right now. That 88 machine has been going towards the front, and he looks like he's got some pretty good long run speed, because over the last few laps he's been consistently running lap times even with the guys ahead of him. And if he can get a little bit of track position, he's definitely going to make some noise in this championship battle, right behind Brandon Bowie and David Comstock, who are going at it for those 4th and 5th positions. And it looks like Bowie will finally get that position, and now David Washington right ahead of these guys. He's back on the inside of the number 99 of Anthony DeBarro, trying to take that position away, but just can't quite get the run he needs to move into that position.
So DeBarro there on the 99 giving David Washington the same troubles that he gave Dylan Jones just a few laps ago. The question is, can Washington find a way to use the bottom to make that work a little bit better so he can clear DeBarro a little bit quicker than his teammate was able to? We know that David Washington loves this racetrack. It's one of his favorites, so I've got to believe with all of the seat time that Washington's got here that he probably knows a few things about this place that most of the other drivers in the field might not necessarily know themselves. And I wonder when he might use that advantage to try and make things happen. Meanwhile, green flag pit stops have begun here. Daniel Eberhardt is the first of our top 10 drivers to come down pit road. Also worth noting that drivers here must use the access road in turn 3 to enter pit road here. You do not enter off of turn 4. So little wrinkle there that might trip somebody up if you miss it coming out of turn 3, and if you overshoot it, you've got to come all the way around and get back to it the next lap by to be able to get down pit road. That will cost someone some time in this race. The question will be, who does it bite?
And we're going to be watching to see if and when that happens to any of these drivers. And you have to believe that even though he's not in the championship battle, Daniel Eberhardt coming to pit road is going to force the rest of these drivers to come in very, very soon, because he's about to be 2.5 to 3 seconds quicker per lap over everybody that he was chasing. And he was within 1.5 seconds of the race leader. So after just a couple of laps, he's going to have made up enough time to be able to move into the race lead once everybody else comes to pit road. But so far, nobody else out here has elected to make that move to pit road. Everybody's staying out on the racetrack, and Dylan Jones is loving what he's seeing right now as he's pulling away from everybody. He's opened that gap up to 1.1 seconds, almost 1.2 seconds over second place driver David Washington, and he just continues to increase that gap the longer this run goes.
Washington finally able to clear DeBarro a few laps ago, so it's definitely those two for 1 and 2. And speak of the devil, here comes DeBarro down that access road in turn 3 to pit road. So DeBarro is the first of the top 5 drivers to come get 4 tires and fuel. Question now will be, who blinks next? Who comes in for fuel, for tires, for service, for everything that you need to try and make a charge at the championship?
And I think we're going to find out very soon. You have to believe the rest of these drivers, especially now that Anthony DeBarro has made his way to pit road, that they're going to want to come in as well. But it looks like so far none of the remaining top 5, top 6 drivers have elected to make that move. And I almost have to wonder if maybe these guys are trying to make this a 2-stop race versus a 3-stop race, because by my estimation, the way that Daniel Eberhardt and Anthony DeBarro have pitted, I think they're going to have to come back to pit road at least 2 more times. If these guys can make it and stretch to maybe like lap 45 or so, they might be able to do this on just 2 stops, where the rest of them would be doing 3. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they elect to do that. Will they be able to take advantage of the fresher tires, or will these drivers on the 3-stop strategy be able to take advantage of the fresher tires and move ahead? And now we see Brandon Bowie on the access road making his way to pit road.
So Bowie comes down. If you're trying to evenly space this on tires via a 2-stop race, you need to make it to about lap 42, I would say, would be the number you're trying to hit, if that's your strategy call. But we don't know. There are so many different cards that can be played. Last year we saw Mike Kelly completely go off sequence from everybody and try and win the race on pit strategy. Didn't quite work out for Kelly, but it's a perfect example of what can happen here, especially if we get long green flag runs and you get the opportunity to shuffle your pit strategy around a little bit.
And we're just going to have to wait and see what these drivers elect to do. I think the one big thing that these Championship 4 drivers have to be mindful of is the fact that right now they're going to have to do something different than that 11 machine, because Dylan Jones is in a completely different time zone from these guys. He is just running laps that are so much quicker than his competitors, and unfortunately that's not going to help them. And now we see David Washington and David Comstock both coming to pit road. So the first of our Championship 4 drivers electing to come to pit road. And now I almost feel 100% certain that we will see Andrew Freenars and Dylan Jones in the next time by. And for these drivers now, they cannot have a mistake on pit road, because under green, they will lose so much more time. You cannot slide through your box. You cannot miss anything when you get to your pit box. And for these 2 drivers, they have to be flawless.
Here comes Jones right on cue down the access road. He will go. So the 11 car will come in for service. Freenars, on the other hand, though, is going to stay out an extra lap, it looks like. So Freenars will assume the lead of the Championship 4 as they rode on track, but he will still need to come down for 4 tires in service.
A big moment here for the 42 of David Comstock. He's racing David Washington on the access road to try to get ahead of him. He will make that move on the access road to get ahead of David Washington. That could be a big moment right there for the number 42 machine, because he came in about a second and a half behind David Washington, but was able to really carry some speed on the access road coming into pit road, and it allowed him to make up a ton of time and eventually move ahead of the number 98 machine. So now we're just waiting to see what happens with Dylan Jones, who's just now exiting his pit box, but he's got to stay on the access road here as he comes down, and he's trying to get away from these guys and see if he can't get a pretty good gap on them. And it looks like Comstock might actually be able to take the lead away from that 11 machine. It's going to be very close as the 11 is trying to get up to speed on the backstretch here. Comstock's certainly going to be right there with him when they get to turn 3, but I do believe Dylan Jones is going to hold on to it by about maybe half a second or so.
And the question we continue to ask is, when does Andrew Freenars come down for 4 tires and fuel? Really beginning to stretch it out on this first run now. Already working lap 46 on the same set of tires he started the race with. So either he's coming down here within the next few laps, or he's really going to try and stretch it and maybe make it a 1-stop race if he thinks he can do it.
Well, I know on a full tank of gas you can run about 60 laps. If you can stretch it to 61 or 62, that might give you a chance to go for it and run it to the end on fuel. But I don't know if that's going to be a good call, because the tires are going to mean so much more. I just can't imagine this working in his favor if he elects to do that. And at this point, he's almost stuck being committed to that strategy, because he has given up so much time on the racetrack right now that there's no way that he could pit now and be able to make that time back up. He's easily going to be 10, 15, 20 seconds behind these guys, and he's going to make me eat my words as here he comes to the access road, and he will make his way to pit road. But now we're going to see just how much this is going to hurt that 88 machine, because he is going to be so far behind when he finally gets the tires.
So Freenars is the last man to come get tires as he works lap 47 of 125. So if you're keeping track of that number in your pit notes back at home. That's the lap that Freenors came in to get his first set of tires, and it will be Nelson Rivera that assumes control of this race, and then Ross Cato, and I believe Tanner Tallarico should jump up to the third spot, Eberhard fourth, and then DeBarro would be fifth.
And DeBarro actually will be the race leader once everything cycles through, as he is well ahead of Dylan Jones. He's about 7 seconds ahead of him as of right now. So barring some type of a letdown, that's going to be your race leader once everything sets through. And actually, I believe Eberhard might actually end up being the race leader, because he is ahead of the number 99 machine right now, only by about a second. So that's going to end up being your battle for the race lead. And Andrew Freenors is just now coming off of pit road from his service, and he's about a half a lap behind these drivers that have already been to pit road. That's how much he gave up by staying out just 10 laps. That's all that he stayed out longer than most of these drivers, but that's going to be a huge difference. And while he's definitely got the advantage on the fresher tires right now, I just don't know if he's going to be able to make up that kind of time. We're going to have to wait and see what happens with those guys, but this is a pretty interesting call for the number 90. He was the first driver to come to pit road, James, and he's one of those drivers, he's not battling for the championship. He has nothing to lose. Go out here and try to get the victory. That's about all he needs to worry about.
That's about all you can do if you're Eberhard. Just trying to go out there and get one last victory to knock out the 2017 season. Not quite the end that I want in terms of the championship battle, but 5 victories for Daniel Eberhard in 2017. The only other 3 men who have hit that plateau: Comstock, Washington, and Jones, all playoff contenders. Nelson Rivera now running really, really slowly. I can't tell if he was looking to come down to pit road for service that last time by and just missed his entry. Certainly is possible, but he leads this race at the moment. Ross Cato also there. He's in second. Both of those men have yet to come down for 4 tires and fuel. Eberhard is next in line, and I believe the first one who has pitted. He is ahead of Anthony DeBarro by just under half a second.
And it looks like Nelson Rivera might have missed pit road the last time, because he's on the access road now and he's coming to pit road. So the race lead's going to, for the moment, get handed over to Ross Cato in the 12 car. And I believe he's the last driver to not have come to pit road as of right now. And he will assume the race lead, and that will move him up, and that moves Daniel Eberhard and Anthony DeBarro in the second and third position. And they have a pretty big gap over these guys that were chasing them just a handful, or that they were chasing just a handful of laps ago. This could have been a big call for both of these drivers, because they are about 7 seconds ahead of David Comstock. They're about 6 seconds ahead of Dylan Jones. I mean, they've got a pretty good advantage over those drivers. And while Dylan Jones was very fast on the long run at the beginning of this race, I don't know if he can make up that kind of time. So this could have been a big call for both of these drivers. And we see DeBarro now is battling with Daniel Eberhard for what will eventually be the race lead. And I believe it's the race lead right now, because Ross Cato is on pit road. So this is the battle going on for the race lead now. Daniel Eberhard has it, and DeBarro wants it.
You're right there, as we see Ross Cato slip down the order now that he's got 4 tires in fuel. This is Eberhard and DeBarro who are clear of Brandon Bowie and then Dylan Jones by about 4 seconds. So there's the advantage that fresh tires will get you. DeBarro drives it in deep into the corner. Can he pull the slide job on Eberhard? Yes. The 99 back to the point here in Homestead, Miami. Eberhard back into second position.
And boy, have these two had a history over their careers here in the Full Throttle Cup Series, and it's no surprise to me at all that they're racing with each other once again, and that it's for the race lead. These two can't seem to get apart from one another, and we seem to see that whenever there's a rivalry going on track, they just can't seem to get away, and that seems to be the case. But right now, DeBarro has managed to gap Eberhard in just the lap that he's had the lead. Looks like he's got a much quicker car at this point. He pitted about 3 laps later than the 90 machine. I have to believe that tire advantage is what's helping him right here, and is what has allowed him to open that gap by almost 7/10 of a second here in just a lap. He's really rolling at this point of the run.
Really, really good stuff from DeBarro at this point. The problem is that Dylan Jones and Brandon Bowie are both closing because they have newer tires than both the 99 and the 90 machine. Last time by, it was about 4/10 that Jones is able to knock off of DeBarro's lead. It was a lead that was just over 5 seconds. It's now down to 4.7. And as they come across the stripe this time by, I'll have to believe that Jones and Bowie will be eating into that a little bit more, and they have. It's been another 4/10 of a second. That lead now down to 4.3 seconds from Jones to DeBarro. Bowie lost a ton of time there. He's only 1/10 of a second ahead of Dylan Jones, and never mind that. Bowie just gives it easy work to him, and the 11 car now jumps up into the 3rd spot. So Dylan Jones is coming for the 99 and the 90 as they come across the stripe this time by. That gap goes from 4.3 down to 3.9. So I'd say give it, maybe another... how good is my math? 8 laps, I'd say. Dylan Jones will probably be there.
It's going to be very close indeed. We'll have to watch that gap as it shrinks and see how long it takes him to get there. And it is worth noting, David Washington was able to get around David Comstock, so he'll move into the 5th position and move Comstock back to 6th. And right now, Andrew Freenars, he's 14.5 seconds behind Anthony DeBarro and behind the championship contenders that he is chasing, almost 10 seconds back to each of them. So he's going to have his work cut out for him. He is quicker right now because he's on fresher tires than each of them, but it's not going to be an easy battle for him now, as he's also lost a lot of track position. And while we haven't had one yet, a caution will definitely hurt his chances right now, being back in that 13th position. He does not want to see that at this point of the run. He needs this thing to stay green so he can try to pick off a few of these positions and get closer to the guys that he's chasing.
Needs this just to stay green so the pit cycle can shuffle through again and he can go gain that track position. Like you said, it would be horrendous if he got buried there on a restart as it stands. So Jones conveniently has the gap down to 2.9 seconds now to DeBarro. It's, I think, 1.4 from Jones to Eberhardt, and Eberhardt will be the next car on the racetrack that the 11 will see. So battle for second here probably coming within the next 5 to 10 laps if we run at this same consistent pace.
The battle for second's happening right now as Dylan Jones caught and is passing Daniel Eberhardt for that 2nd position. Dan is on the bottom, Dylan's on the top, and he's easily going to take that position. And now he's only 1 position away from Anthony DeBarro and 1 position away from taking the race lead. And Daniel Eberhardt, as soon as he got passed by Dylan Jones, he goes back to pit road here on lap 61. This is a little quicker than I expected him to pit for his 2nd pit stop. He pitted on lap 36 for the first time, and he's going to almost spin it out. And he does spin it out on pit road. So whatever strategy that the 90 was trying to play, it has been hurt in a big way now because he just gave up a ton of time on pit road there, and that's not going to help his chances at all.
Critical mistake there from Daniel Eberhardt to really damage his chances of winning this race. He now almost certainly will need a caution to get back into the proceedings up at the front of the field. And that's the kind of mistake that, especially if you're one of the championship 4, you have to avoid. If anything happens like that, especially here as we get towards the second half of this race, big trouble will arise.
Absolutely, and just have to wait and see what comes of that. And it's an unfortunate break for the number 90 machine, and just one of those deals. But got a midway race break coming up, James. I believe we're getting ready to have some fun with that here in just a moment, because we are across the halfway point of this race. And we'll go ahead and take a look at that iRacing midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. In the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, the Cars Tour, USAC, and more. And as we get ready to go ahead and roll with that iRacing midway race break, I'll let you take it away, James. Anthony DeBarro is our race leader.
I'll add to that list of series Blanc Pond GT, the VLN Endurance Championship, and coming later this fall, the Red Bull Global Rally Cross will join the iRacing stable. Anthony DeBarro, your race leader here as they work lap 65. Dylan Jones, though, coming quickly, only 0.6 of a second back. Brandon Bowie runs in the third position. David Washington, next man in the championship 4 behind Jones, runs in fourth. Comstock is the third man in the championship 4. He runs fifth. Sean Casto currently sits in the sixth position. Shane Ewing can be found in seventh. Austin Coop, eighth. Nick Silver runs in ninth, and Aegis Motorsports' Trevor Rappolo will run in 10th.
The final of the championship, 4 drivers trying to rebound from his late pit strategy is Andrew Freenarch. He's currently 11th on the track right now, and he's 9.5 seconds behind the race leader. Tanner Tallarico is 12th. Then we have Eric Stanford in the 13th position. 14th goes to Corey Wolf. Then we have Sean Boundy in 15th. Dwayne Vincent currently sits in the 16th position. Then we have Nelson Rivera in 17th. John Abbott is 18th. Ross Cato is 19th, and he's the last car on the lead lap.
Trouble, Anthony DeBarro wrecks it in the back straightaway, not to cut you off, Macklin, but he got loose after he and Dylan Jones battled for the race lead and just lost the back end of the 99 machine coming out of turn 2 and then nosed it straight into the outside retaining wall and brings out the first yellow flag of the race to completely throw the iRacing Midway race break off entirely, because this will change everything.
And that's a big moment for a lot of drivers, and could have been very big for Dylan Jones had that happened while they were side by side, and got very lucky that that wasn't the case. And I don't see a lot of damage on the 99 machine, but he certainly has some damage to the right front of that car that will hurt the aerodynamics of that machine, so he's going to have some work on pit road for his pit crew. And you have to believe this is the break that, I'm not sure if it's the break that Andrew Freenarch needed, but it might be the one that he wanted at this point, because now he has an opportunity to get back on sequence with these guys, and he's back inside the top 10 now. He was able to inch ahead into the 10th position right before that caution came out, so not a horrible loss for the 88, but certainly still going to have to work hard to get back to these guys.
Watch pit road mistakes. We've talked about it all year long. The under and overshooting of pit stalls is the most common mistake made on iRacing. Then it's the pit road speeding penalties, and this could be one of the last pit stops of the year, if not the. So if you're in that championship battle, you have to hit this and nail this correctly. Looks like everything's all clean, though, for the most part, with the championship 4. 11 car is able to jump out ahead of everybody, and then Bowie, and then Comstock is able to jump Washington and get a position. Sean Castill will come out in the 5th spot in the famed City Chevrolet Days of Thunder colors there. So Comstock goes up 1 spot on Washington to get 3rd. Otherwise, not really much change here in the top 5.
And it's very interesting to see what's going to happen here. And Andrew Freenarch looks like he's going to lose a couple of spots on pit road. Had some issues there, and that's going to hurt his chances. So have to see exactly where he cycles through when it's all said and done. But didn't have the stop on pit road that he was looking for. And this is the type of mistakes that you do not want if you are battling for a championship. And a non-related championship driver, Dwayne Vincent, looks like he's got an issue as he is coasting back around on the apron right now. I'm not sure if he's got a problem with that car or if he's just waiting for somebody, but some problems on the 13 machine right now.
While we have a caution, we'll take this moment to get to a quick commercial break, and then we'll return you back to our championship battle at Homestead. You're watching coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by LSRTV, or presented by Gary Mercer Trucking on LSRTV, your home for sim racing.
wanted the best, you got him 4 abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
Welcome back to coverage of the championship finale for the Full Throttle Cup Series here on LSRTV. Real Sim Racing's best back into action. Green flag here, lap 72. After Anthony DeBarro spins on the back straightaway and loses control of his car, it gave everybody the chance to come get 4 fresh tires and fuel, and has reset pit strategy amongst your championship 4. Everybody still in contention, all running in the top 10. Dylan Jones will lead them around this first time here. Brandon Bowie second. David Washington running to the outside of David Comstock. 2 of your championship 4 contenders side by side for the 3rd position.
And David Washington's able to hold on to that position. He edges ahead of David Comstock, and he's now going to set his sights on the 44 of Brandon Bowie. But more importantly, he needs to be setting his sights on the 11 of Dylan Jones, because now that we're in the second half of this race, time is running out. And if you want to be the Full Throttle Cup Series champion for the year 2017, you have to go through that 11 machine right now, as he is on rails, and he is already beginning to gap these guys, as he's put about 3 car lengths over the 44 of Brandon Bowie, and just continues to drive away here at the beginning of this race. So it's pressure is on for all of these championship contenders to try to chase him down and take that championship battle away from him.
Bowie already looks like he's taking away the line of Washington ever so slightly. It's not a lot for sure, but it's enough to where Washington can't really get a foothold, especially on the outside of the racetrack where he's been so good. I wonder how quickly that 98 car will try and move up top to go get around the 44 machine, because Dylan Jones is ever so slightly beginning to gap everybody. It's a 0.3 of a second lead now, and it could jump up here a little bit more next time by.
And the problem that Dave has right now is on these fresh tires, the bottom of the racetrack still works, and you can make some time down there, and the outside line doesn't really come in until you get 10 to 15 laps on the tires. And so he's kind of just stuck right now, following in the tracks of the 44 machine and just hoping that he can find a way around him. But the problem is that just hasn't been the case right now. These 3 have driven away from David Comstock, who's in 4th. He's just trying to hang on. He's about a second behind the race leader, and right behind him. And now 44 allowed Washington to go by. So David Washington moves into the 2nd position, and now he finally has that opportunity to go after the number 11 of Dylan Jones, but he's got his work cut out for him, as he's about a half a second behind that number 11 machine.
Washington has tried to claw his way up through this field to get to 2nd all night long. Finally has a chance to get up here and get it done. So now David Washington heads up with teammate Dylan Jones for the race lead here. Comstock is sitting there in that 4th position, trying to get past Brandon Bowie in the 44 machine, and Freenars is mired back in traffic at the moment, sitting behind Austin Coop in the 7th position. Sean Casto 6th. He's really deep back in there and just needs a hole more than anything else to find a way out through to go get those front championship 4 drivers.
That's exactly what he's trying to do. And how about Freenars back there, as he's up to the 8th position, battling with Austin Coop on the inside of the racetrack. He's trying to take that line around the bottom of the track to get around the 51 machine, or 53 machine rather. Doesn't quite have the speed here, as Coop is able to fight off, and Eberhardt is right back there in the mix of all this as well, trying to do something with it. And now Freenars sails the car off into the corner, almost gets into the left rear quarter panel of the 46 of Sean Casto. He's able to get ahead of Coop, but now the battle is on with that number 46 machine, trying to take that position away as well. That would be for the 6th position if he can get around Sean Casto at this point. And every position on the racetrack right now is very critical for that 88 machine, because he is the bottom of the 4 drivers racing for the championship. He's got to do everything he can to try to get back into the middle of this thing.
Trying to find a way, drives it down into the corner. He's just going to try and pull the slide job on Sean Casto. Going to get up in front of the 46 and make it stick. Goes all the way up to the wall, puts his rear right in front of the 46, and I think he might just have that position locked down. Freenars up to the 6th spot now. Shane Ewing is next. Got a little bit of a ways to go up to 5th. In the meantime, though, up at the front of the field, David Washington has not chipped away a lot at Dylan Jones's lead, but it has come down just a little bit. 3/100ths of a second the last time by, and that's really the first time I think all day that we've seen somebody be able to run down the 11 machine and be faster. So lead went back up a little bit that last time by, though, up to 46/100ths of a second. So pretty similar lap times between Jones and Washington, but those two right now look to be the class of the field.
And they just continue to drive away from the championship contenders behind them. It is worth noting David Comstock was able to get around Bowie for third, so now he is right there behind them as well. The problem is he's 1.2 seconds behind these guys, so he has a lot of work to do to catch up to them as well. And we saw earlier in the race that 42 machine had some decent short run speed, but did not seem to have the long run speed. And if that's the case in this run as well, he's in trouble already, because he's already losing time, and we haven't really put a lot of laps on these tires yet. And the two guys ahead of him are the guys he needs to be racing and beating, and it's just not working out for that machine right now. Still doing everything he can, and still has a lot of racing left to go, with about 43 laps remaining in this thing. Still plenty of time for something to happen for any of these championship drivers, but certainly they have to just stay in it at this point. We're getting to that point of the race now, James, where a lot of things can start happening. You can start having some attrition, and you just don't want to make any mistakes, especially if you're one of these four drivers, knowing that you still have about 40 laps to go.
A lot of time here, and the question is, at what point do you really start throwing everything to the wall and just trying to find a way to get any sort of speed you possibly can? I think especially if you're Freenars and Comstock, because it just isn't working at the moment for either one. They're slipping back over a second behind. Comstock now almost a second and a half behind Dylan Jones, race leader. So something's got to give, something's got to change. At what point do you change the way you race to try and make something happen?
Well, I think it really just depends on your speed situation. Like with David Comstock, he's not running these guys down, so now you have to start thinking about different kinds of strategies and see if maybe he can go for something different. With 40 laps to go, I don't expect these guys would have to pit for fuel, but maybe coming down pit road and getting tires might be the answer. Come down, get the fresh tires, have the advantage on that. Either force the guys that you're chasing to come to pit road with you, or force them to try to defend by staying out on the racetrack. At this point, you're starting to run out of options, especially if you're Comstock and if you're Freenars. You know you're being beat on the track in terms of speed. A strategy call at this point is going to be your only opportunity to try to win this championship.
Because at this stage, it's about tire fall off, and it's about time and time intervals over the course of a long green flag run. And here at LSRTV, there's only one way that we measure our time intervals, and that is with Joel Real Timing, who presents tonight's coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series on LSRTV as our official timing software. Whether you spend your time on the sim, behind the wheel, on the pit box, or from the spotter stand, JRT is the go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. You can get yourself a basic download for free, or get the pro version today at joel-real-timing.com. Once again, that's joel-real-timing.com. Working lap 87, and Dylan Jones has managed to stretch it out a little bit over David Washington. The lead is now up to almost 0.6 of a second, so Jones is still able to find something here that Washington can't, even though Washington has pushed him a little bit harder than anybody else has managed to tonight. But Dylan Jones really putting it down on this field, and you can see everybody else has already responded. David Comstock's already up on the wall trying to make that groove work for him.
Yeah, he's just searching for anything at this point that would give him an opportunity to start chasing down the guys in front of him, but he just has not had the speed on the long run here tonight, and that continues to be the case, as he's now down to 1.6 seconds behind these guys. He's not very far off, but when you're losing half a tenth every lap or a quarter of a tenth every lap, it eventually adds up, and that's what we're seeing happen to this number 42 machine. And Andrew Freenars, he's managed to get all the way back up to the 6th position. He's right behind Shane Ewing, and he's working that outside line. He's also trying to get back up inside the top 5. Has a pretty good car right now, but he too, much like David Comstock, is just running out of time, and he's just fighting for everything he can get at this point. On the back bumper of that number 32 machine, trying to see if he can't make a move now to the inside of the racetrack off of turn 4 to try to take that 5th position away.
Can he make it happen? Can DeBarro get around Shane Ewing? We knew that Ewing was going to be the next car in line. And here comes Freenars to the outside of the 32 machine. Now back down to the inside with a very, very nicely pulled crossover move. Freenars now underneath Shane Ewing, and Ewing won't even bother, just lets him go. So that'll make Freenars' job easier. Up to the 5th spot, Brandon Bowie is next on track and is about a second ahead of the 88 machine. So Freenars will have a little bit more work to do of running some solid lap times, but he's already done it once to separate himself from that pack behind him towards the back half of the top 10 to get to Shane Ewing, and he'll just have to repeat the process to go get to Brandon Bowie.
And he's doing a good job right now, and he, like you said, he's about a full second behind Brandon Bowie right now, but he's got some pretty good speed in that car. Not running lap times too far off of our race leader, actually. Dylan Jones last time by ran a 31.81, and Freenars ran an 84, so only a couple hundreds off of the race leader. And David Washington is running pretty comparable lap times to the race leader as well, staying with him. Actually was just a hair quicker than Dylan Jones this last time by. So while Dylan has been the class of the field as far as long run speed, there's a couple of these drivers that are starting to show that they've got some speed as well, and even David Comstock right there was just a hair quicker than our race leader. So some of these guys, maybe they're starting to figure it out and starting to find some speed that might help them get back into this thing before it's all said and done.
I think you've got to try and find something here, because Dylan Jones has been able to drive away with ease all throughout this race, has been virtually unchallenged at the front of this field since he made his way up there, and it's very much looked like so far that only a mistake on the part of the 11 himself is going to be the way that he gets beat in this race tonight. But we haven't seen everybody's hand here, I think, yet. We still have time left in this race for things to change and shape up. So I think you just have to be on your toes. And execution is a key factor in this too. It sounds simple, being able to click off similar lap times for about the next 30 or 40 laps that we've got here. But it's one very, very different thing, Mr. Macklin, to be able to do that successfully.
Absolutely, and I'm sitting here thinking about the 42 and the 88 right now. They know they're beat on speed. They have to do something different. If I am the driver, or if I'm the crew chief for either of these cars, I'm going to make the call to bring these guys to pit road now. Split this race up. We went back green with 55 laps to go. Right now, there's 30 laps left in this race. Come to pit road now. Force these guys to either come with you or stay out there and hope that they can hang on the older tires. At this point, they're almost 2 seconds of a lap, or they would be almost 2 seconds of a lap quicker than the guys ahead of them, and with 30 laps left, that would give them enough time to unlap themselves and get back around the track and possibly be able to challenge Dylan Jones and David Washington for the race lead and for the championship. And I think that's at this point, what do you have to lose, James? Because you're running in third, you're running in fifth, that's not going to win you the championship. You have to try something different.
Wonder if Andrew Freenars might be the first one to try and do something. He is currently the 4th on track of the championship 4, but looks like everybody's going to stay out there this time. But somebody's got to try that. I think somebody absolutely can benefit from that if they so choose. Meanwhile, Jones has been keeping that gap in its ever so growing distance between he and Washington. Wider and wider now, up over a second. So Washington's even losing time to the 11 machine now. Who blinks first? Does anybody try and pull some sort of pit strategy to get up there?
I think the biggest thing is you have to do it sooner rather than later. You need to give yourself time to make up that ground that you're going to lose by coming to pit road. So the sooner you come to pit road, the sooner you can start making that time back up, and you have more time to do so with those fresher tires. So I personally think the window is starting to close for that strategy to actually work. I think they should have done it about 3 laps ago, but they still have the opportunity to do it. But certainly, like I said, I just don't know if they've got enough time to keep going for that. And it looks like Dylan Jones is going to force the hand of all of these drivers as he's coming to pit road now. I have to admit, I did not see that one coming. I expected one of the other Championship 4 drivers to be the ones to make that call, but it looks like Dylan Jones is going to be the first one, and now he most certainly will force these other guys to have to come to pit road.
Or will he? Who's going to try and stay out and stay ahead of the 11 machine? On fresh tires, he will almost certainly be the fastest car over the last 25 laps, but that's all he has to try and go get the lead back to win this championship. And we also can't forget about the possibility of another caution like what we saw with Anthony DeBarra, because if that happens while Jones is still busy racing through the field, it might bury him in traffic and might cost him this title from the race lead. So you don't necessarily know how it's going to shake out, but Dylan Jones has really put the pressure on everybody now, and the question is, who will come with him?
And you have to just wait and watch. But right now, Dylan Jones has already lost a lap, and he's about a half a straightaway behind the race leader, actually a full straightaway behind the race leader. And while he's certainly going to be a lot quicker now, that's a concern because, as you mentioned, if a caution were to come out, he'd be a lap down. He would currently be in the lucky dog position, but the problem with that is if he has to take the lucky dog, he has to start at the rear of the field. And actually, he would not be in the lucky dog position because now the timing and scoring has updated. He's in 16th, and he's one lap down behind a couple of drivers who would also be ahead of him for that potential lucky dog spot. And now it's just a wait and watch. See, did any of these drivers elect to come to pit road? And I have to believe, since these guys, especially the other championship drivers, they've elected to stay out this long, I have to believe they're going to try to stretch this thing to the end because they've already given up enough time to where they would not be able to make up that time by coming to pit road now, because they've already given up at least 4 to 5 seconds to Dylan Jones by staying out here a couple laps longer than him.
And I wonder here, especially with the old tires and the new tires, we saw it a few weeks ago at Texas. We had a huge wreck at the front of the field when old tires and new tires came together, and it cost Carl Shed a chance at the championship. And there's a very large pack of cars in turn 3 and 4 that's kind of got the racetrack clogged up. It looks very, very much like what that Texas track looked like a few weeks ago. So I think that also has to be a concern if you're Dylan Jones, even though picking off this field is going to come with ease, and that won't be complicated. But if anybody wrecks besides you in this group that's come down to get tires, then you're in trouble as well.
Well, and Dylan Jones has to be mindful of the fact that he's not necessarily going to get an easy path through these drivers that are on older tires. If they're racing for position, they have every right to continue racing, and that could make his job a little bit harder trying to work their way through him, as he's now within about a second of the race leader already, which would unlap himself and give him an opportunity to get back on the lead lap and give him a chance to go after it. But like right now, they are almost 3 wide for right in front of Dylan Jones. You see Dylan goes to the bottom, tries to force it almost 4 wide. And he has to at this point because he is on the move. He has to try to get around these guys, get back on the lead lap, and then try to go after trying to chase these guys down and getting back to the race lead before they get to the checkered flag.
Got very, very scary. There was almost 4 wide for Dylan Jones that last time by, but he's unlapped himself now. Gets around David Washington. So 22 laps for Dylan Jones to try and go run this championship back down. We'll have to watch the intervals lap by lap to see what he can do, but it's a pretty big number that he's been able to open up on Washington already. Looking very, very good. When he comes across the stripe, it is a 31-second gap. So 31 seconds in 21 laps. That's what Dylan Jones has to make up in order to go get this championship.
And right now he is running almost 2 seconds of a lap quicker than David Washington and David Comstock. And if you do the math, that gives him enough time to get there and maybe a little bit of change if he can continue to keep that pace up. So going to be very interesting to see what happens. But right now, while we're waiting to see what happens with the 11 machine, there could be a little bit of a battle heating up for the race lead. And it's going to be between a driver racing for a championship and a driver that's just racing for a victory. Brandon Bowie has caught the number 98 machine and is going to the bottom of the racetrack for the race lead here, and he is battling hard with that number 98 machine. It's going to be interesting to see how hard does the 98 fight the 44, because that's not for a championship, and he's not going to fight at all, as Bowie now takes control of the race lead.
Very, very smart move by Washington there, recognizing that the battle is not for the race win, but it is for the championship, and the only man he has to care about is David Comstock. Running side by side for the race win will do David Washington no good in his quest to go be a Full Throttle Cup Series champion. So he has let Bowie go by without any sort of hesitation, and Bowie will assume the race lead because the fear is Dylan Jones, who knocked off 4 seconds that last time by. It's a 27-second gap to Bowie now.
And he is going to continue to just knock down laps, another almost 2 full seconds that time by off of the race leader. And so he certainly has an opportunity at this, but now that battle for what is currently the battle for the championship, David Comstock and David Washington, it's beginning to heat up as Comstock has managed to run down David Washington. He's within just a couple of car lengths. Now he has a couple of lap cars that are going by him that are on fresher tires. That's going to hurt him for a moment, but he's going to get that time back now as they now begin to work their way around the 98 machine. And it looks like Washington's going to run high to let them go, and that allows Comstock to close that gap back up as he's now back within just a couple of car lengths of the number 98 machine. They can't think about the 11 right now, James. They have to think about what's going on right around them, and this could end up being who wins the championship right here.
Big battle here. 23.9 seconds back to Brandon Bowie. It's getting closer. Jones is coming.
He's coming, but right...
While we have a moment, though, here before it gets too crazy, I want to take a moment to remind you that coverage of tonight's RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series Championship race is brought to you by Hippie's Paint Shop. Hippie's Paint Shop has over 5 years of experience providing top-quality custom paint schemes for all iRacing vehicles at a low price. Because after all, at Hippie's Paint Shop, the cost isn't high, just the painter. Hippie's Paint Shop responsible for the paint scheme that you see on the number 33 of Douglas Wyatt tonight, running his final Full Throttle Cup Series race, retiring after a long career in this series after the checkered flag this evening. So congratulations to Douglas on a very, very fantastic Full Throttle Cup Series career and a well-earned retirement. At the front of the field, though, in this championship battle, it is still David Washington, but he is now only ahead of David Comstock by 0.2, and Dylan Jones has now got the gap down to 19 seconds. So he's coming even harder. Will he have enough time? That's the question.
Well, and the big thing that we have to keep in mind about that is he does not have to run down the 44 of Brandon Bowie. He has to run down the 98 and the 42 of David Washington and David Comstock. And right now, the gap to them is only about 17 seconds. So he's definitely got an opportunity. He is beginning to run out of time, though, as we're down to just 13 laps to go. He's going to have to continue to chop off about 1.5 to 2 seconds a lap if he wants to have that opportunity. And right now he's about 16 seconds behind these guys, and David Comstock is there. He is on the back bumper of the number 98 machine, and he knows right now, at least for the time being, this is for the championship. He's got to get around that number 98 machine if he wants to even have a chance at holding off the 11, and he's on the bottom of the racetrack just searching for anything right now to give him that opportunity to go around that number 98 machine.
Brandon Bowie already ahead of both of these drivers by a solid 2 seconds, and there may be fuel concerns for Washington and Comstock too, just trying to squeeze every last drop out of their cars to try and make it to the end and win the title. Dylan Jones is now 15 seconds back of this battle, so the question is, when do you push here? 11 laps to go now for Washington and Comstock and Friedars and Jones, and I also think we also have to pay attention to how hard Friedars decides to race Jones, because that will be a battle for position as well.
And he definitely could try to do that just for the off chance that if he can catch a caution, he can keep that 11 behind him and possibly have an opportunity to get ahead of him and challenge these guys for the championship if we were to get a late race restart. Running out of time now as we're down to 10 laps to go. And as you mentioned, these guys are coasting, just trying to save a little bit of fuel. They have to be mindful of this, though. They cannot give up too much time because they're already giving up time on tires. If they start giving up time by trying to save fuel, it's almost going to erase them from any opportunity opportunity of winning this championship, and right now that gap is down to about 12 seconds with less than 10 laps to go. It's going to be very, very close, James. I believe the 11 is going to get there. I just don't know if he's going to have enough time to actually battle and get past both of these drivers.
It will be very, very close, because the other thing I've noticed is that the advantage that Jones has over these other two drivers in terms of the amount of time he's gaining each lap has slowed just a little bit over the last few laps. It's now down to about 2 seconds a lap as opposed to the 4 that it was right after he came off pit road. So it might be one of those cases where he may get to these two, he may not. I don't know, but it's going to be very, very, very close, within a handful of laps, I think.
And it sounds like these guys are still coasting, trying to save a little bit of fuel, but now I almost think you have to try to just start going after it, because we're down to 7 laps to go, and David Washington just had a very big issue coming off of turn 2. Now they're side by side. This is for the championship. Comstock on the bottom, Washington on the top, battling for the position, and whoever can come out on top could be your champion when it's all said and done. Comstock trying to take the position away, and it looks like he has the advantage off turn 4. He does, so Comstock moves to second. And now here comes Washington with the crossover.
Washington back to the bottom here. This for the championship lead as they run, and it might give Dylan Jones a little bit of hope too. Here comes Comstock up on the top side. Washington can't get the run off the corner. David Comstock to the championship lead here on lap 119.
He's just got to do it for 6 more laps. Now that he's ahead of the 98, he's just got to hang on and run 6 flawless laps if he wants to win his first Full Throttle Cup championship. And he is driving away from the number 98 machine now that he has gotten ahead of him, and he is doing everything he can to try to hang on. And now the question becomes, can the 11 of Dylan Jones get to him in these last 6 laps? As it stands right now, he is 7.5 seconds behind. He'd have to gain over a second and a half a lap to get there, and the big problem that he's going to run into is all the traffic that he's going to have to negate through if he wants to get to the 42 machine. He's got about 8 cars that he has to pass in order to get to the championship leader.
How tight will it be? That ability of the 11 car to run these drivers down is just not quite clicking the way it was, but it still might be enough. 8 seconds back to the leader, and it looks like, yeah, 7 still, maybe 7, maybe a little bit under 6 now to Comstock. So David Washington now to pit road, going to try and do something drastic here to save his championship chances. The tires are gone, so he'll come down for 4 Goodyear Eagles and fuel, but that might not be enough. So now it might just be David Comstock and Andrew Freenars and Dylan Jones. Freenars is the next man in line for Jones. Comstock still ahead of everything. Also of note, we have passed the point of no return. If we get a yellow flag at this stage, the race is over. 3 laps to go momentarily.
That pit stop has all but erased a 98 from his opportunity to win a championship, and now it's on for David Comstock. Can he save the fuel to make it 3 more laps to get to the victory and get to the championship here for that number 42 machine? He's still saving fuel in that machine, and he's still got about a 3-4 second advantage over Dylan Jones. He's just got to coast home now. 2.5 laps to go, and he's doing everything he can, still just trying to save every drop of fuel. And if he can bring it home 2 more laps, he will be your Full Throttle Cup Series champion.
Comstock trying to hang on here. Jones has finally made it back to the rear bumper of Freenars, but I don't think it's going to be enough at this stage. He'll clear Freenars easily, but it's still 5 seconds. David Comstock just has to hang on for this lap and a half, and he will be the champion for 2017.
Just trying to clutch it and bring it home now. And while all this is going on, Brandon Bowie is your race leader. He's coming to the white flag. Have to wonder if there's any fuel concerns on the 44 machine. White flag in the air for the leader. White flag in the air for David Comstock.
Here comes David Comstock across the start-finish line to make it happen one more time around for the 42.
He's just got to coast it home. He's on the bottom of the racetrack trying to save every drop of fuel that he can, and if he can just make it to turn 3, I think he's going to have the opportunity. Dylan Jones is about 2.5 seconds back, but no opportunity now.
Brandon Bowie into turn 3 should be able to get the race win easily, but for David Comstock in a season dominated by massive multi-car teams, it's the man from the single team that gets the job done. Brandon Bowie wins the race. David Comstock wins the 2017 RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking Championship.
What a championship for the 42 machine. He's had such an incredible year, and it's going to be capped off with the championship. And for Dylan Jones, 1.4 seconds. That's the difference between him winning the championship and David Comstock getting it. That's how far behind he finished the number 42 machine when it was all said and done. That is maybe one more lap to give him an opportunity to get there. That's how close it was for that team for possibly getting their championship here.
He just missed it by inches. It was so close, and you talked about it right there at the end of it, Macklin, how you thought that it might have been just a little bit too late for Dylan Jones to come down to pit road to make that strategy work. I'll say, I would like to borrow your crystal ball at some point here, because you turned out to be right on the money with that. Maybe one more lap or two is all Dylan Jones needed. But it wasn't to be. David Comstock is the man who comes away with the title.
It was so close, and I did not expect Dylan Jones at all to be the driver to make that call. The only thing I can think is that maybe he realized they were not going to make it on fuel, because he ran it hard from the drop of the green flag when that restart happened. And so that's the only thing I can think that forced the 11 to come to pit road. But for David Comstock, this worked out perfectly for that team, and just absolutely incredible what he was able to do here tonight. Didn't have the best cars in terms of speed. He was definitely beat on speed, but he was able to save enough fuel, get past David Washington, and then held on in the closing laps to win this thing. That's absolutely incredible for those guys.
David Comstock, the champion of the Full Throttle Cup Series for 2017, and we will talk to him and many a man on the other side of this commercial break. You're watching coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking on LSRTV, your home for sim racing.
Hi, I'm Ryan Priest. I'm driving the number 20 JGR Toyota Xfinity car this weekend. Really great opportunity here at New Hampshire at my home track. Over the past 2 weeks, I've been on iRacing, practicing a little bit here and there with the modified and the NASCAR Xfinity car, so it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great tool for me to kind of get used to that stock car body again and be prepared for the race today. Well, yeah, it's a mile long, so the draft kind of plays into effect here with the modifieds, punches a big hole in the air, and we run restrictor plates. So it makes a big difference. Just really fast, and it's our Daytona. So that's what's great about it, and we have a fast car for tomorrow. I think the biggest thing is they're heavier cars. The tire's a lot different, and the way you go about setting them up's a lot different. They use all 4 tires more than a modified, where we typically drive off the right rear, you know, so. Well, actually, it's funny. I raced NASCAR race in 2003 before iRacing came about. And then when iRacing came about, my friend Kevin Iannarelli, who works at iRacing, kind of told me, hey man, you need to switch over to this. And when I did, I was like, oh my God, this is like real life. So I started using it as a tool of mine to really prepare for modified races, whether it was Stafford or Thompson or Loudon, Bristol. And then obviously the Xfinity Series last year, going to road courses, trying to get laps, and use it as a tool that can get me as prepared as I could be without actually doing it. So it's been great.
Welcome back to coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking here on LSRTV. Well, the 2017 season is complete after our finale at Homestead, Miami. David Comstock is your series champion. Brandon Bowie is your race winner. And it's now time to go through our final full field rundown for 2017 and tell you where your favorite driver finished. Brandon Bowie gets his first win of the year in the last race of the year. David Comstock goes back-to-back with an icebreaker and a Full Throttle Cup Series title, sweeps the RSR titles for 2017 with his runner-up finish. Nick Silver comes home with a season's, I think, ties season best for third place. Dylan Jones came up oh so close, had the best car all night, came down pit road, tried to beat everybody on pit strategy, and just missed it by about a lap or two, finishes fourth. Andrew Freenorge was there in the top five, didn't quite have the pace to run with Jones or Comstock or David Washington, but gets a solid finish to round out the year. John Abbott, longtime friend and founder of the RSR Series, comes home with his best finish of the season in sixth. Ross Cato comes home seventh. Nelson Rivera brings the 7-car home eighth. Trevor Roppolo won at Daytona to start the year, finishes the season with a 9th place finish. And Sean Boundy rounds out your top 10.
Sean Casto will come home in the 11th position here tonight. Then we have Lionel Callisto finishing in 12th. Tanner Tallarico comes home in the 13th position. Austin Coop will finish 14th. Then we have Corey Wolf finishing 15th. And Eric Stanford, the last car to finish on the lead lap here tonight, he will finish in 16th. Dwayne Vincent will finish 17th here tonight. And then a little bit of a heartbreak for David Washington, was running inside the top 5 in the last couple of laps, but ran out of gas, had to come to pit road. He will finish 18th. 1 lap down. Shane Ewing comes home 19th, and then rounding out the top 20, Bruce Pearson finishes 20th.
Daniel Eberhardt finishes in the 21st position. Anthony Navarro has just lost the rear end of the car and got loose and hit the wall early, finishes 22nd. Gabe Wood comes home 23rd this evening, and Douglas Wyatt finishes 24th in his final race in RSR competition. And that has been your full field rundown, which has been brought to you tonight by iRacing. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. For a limited time, you can visit iRacing.com/World of Outlaws and take advantage of exclusive promo codes to get yourself on the sim with a 1-year membership for half the price. Once again, that's iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. And we have a whole plethora of people to talk to after that exciting championship finale. And we will start with Brian Macklin, who will speak to one of our drivers in the championship for the 98 of David Washington.
I'm down here on pit road, standing right here next to Dave. Dave, you were so close here tonight, had a very strong car. Unfortunately, the fuel cell just didn't seem to have enough fuel left in it. What happened there for you?
Yeah, it's pretty much that caution when it came out at the right point where it caught me by surprise. So I really didn't, that first part of that last run there, didn't really pay attention to the fuel like we should have. And really, once we tried to start backing it up, and it was already dead 2 laps to the bed. So we really made our bed, so we had to lie in it.
And speaking of that, was there ever a point where you saw your teammate Dylan Jones make the move to pit road with about 30 laps to go? Was there ever a point where you felt like maybe you should have made that move with him, or were you committed at that point when you saw him come to pit road? Were you committed to your strategy to just try to make it to the end?
Yeah, Andy said to me, he says, we were actually going to pit a couple of laps earlier than Jones there before he did, so we were actually going to do the same thing, but I was afraid of a caution or something, with guys on fresh tires. I just didn't want to get caught in that position, but, looking at it now, it probably would have worked, and I'd have been in the same boat as Jones, but I don't know. Overall, it was a great run. It was a super clean race. All the guys were great.
And you had such an incredible season this year. 6 wins, 18 top 5s, and 23 top 10s to cap off your season. So an incredible season for the number 98 machine. First of all, are we going to see you back in this series in 2018? And what are your expectations if we are going to see you?
Well, let's see. I finished third, I think, last season, and wherever I finished this season, we just got to we just got to find that little thing at the end to make it there, be there at the end, and fight with these guys. Definitely coming back to give it another try. I believe the majority of us are, and plus some new people that we have coming on, but it should definitely be fun for next season.
All right, who makes it happen for you on the number 98 machine, Dave? One last opportunity to say thank you to your friends and say hi to any friends or family that might be watching.
Yeah, definitely first and foremost, Andy. Every week, week in and week out. 2 different leagues, sits on the box for me. My mom that watches, Julio for putting this team together. All the guys, Carl, Daniel, Joseph, just the whole list goes on. Just all those guys for showing up each and every week practicing and making it fun. Cisco and all the guys here, you guys for broadcasting it. Definitely looking forward to seeing what's going to come to next season.
That's Dave Washington. He finishes 4th out of the championship 4 here tonight, and he's looking forward to a big 2018. Good luck next season, Dave.
Thanks, guys.
All right, I'm going to step over now just a couple of stalls away, and I'm going to catch up with the number 88 of Andrew Freenarge here in just a moment. And here I am. Andrew, you didn't have the speed that your other competitors racing for the championship had tonight, but you had a good car nonetheless. Take us through your night.
Yeah, had a lot of fun out there, really, and enjoyed that race. I think we were about a top 3, top 4 car. Didn't really have the speed to keep with Dylan and Dave. I thought we were right behind them, probably 3rd tonight. And, we made a strategy call to stay out later. And we started catching the leaders, but caution came out, kind of threw our strategy. We kind of just decided we were going to try to stretch the gas. Started clutching in the corner. We decided a little later, so we really didn't have the same gas miles that Comstock had there. And I was kind of counting on him to run out, but Dylan ended up catching me, so it really wouldn't have mattered. But we were kind of underdogs going into this. We had fun tonight. We threw caution in the wind, kind of, and just really had fun out there.
And talk about that right there. You just said it. You came into this race feeling like an underdog. Having that as your mentality for the night, did it change the way you approached this race at all, or did you just kind of do business as usual?
Yeah, it really did. Usually if I start 7th and the 3 guys who were competing for the championship were in front of me, usually I'm worried, concerned. But realistically, I was just kind of, I'm here, if we don't have the speed, we'll throw strategy at it, and it really changed the way I was thinking. I was having a lot more fun. I know last week at Phoenix, there was so much stress about just making it, but, it really just changed my mentality, just have fun instead of really feeling the pressure that I had to win tonight.
And you did a really good job with that pressure. And I just want to take a second to mention the car you ran tonight. Obviously, it was a Dale Jr. tribute car to an incredible driver. Talk about what it meant to you to get to run that paint scheme here in the season finale at Homestead, much like he did yesterday.
It meant the world to me. I actually had the privilege of flying down from New York down to Miami to watch his last race in person. Had the time of my life there. I went to 10 races this year just to see him as much as I could. And he's the whole reason I'm into racing. And I really got to say thanks to Andy for putting it together. It looked great out there, and it's such an honor to carry those colors tonight. And I hope everyone enjoyed it, and I hope I did everyone proud with that.
Indeed you did, and it was a beautiful paint scheme and a great tribute to a great driver. And before we let you go, Andy, or Andrew, just want to give you a chance to say thank you to your sponsors and say hi to any friends or family who makes it happen for you on the number 88 machine, bud.
Gotta say thanks to these fans who watch every week. That was a heck of a show. I was really excited from the car, even just seeing if I had enough gas to make it to the end. That was a lot of fun there. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I gotta say thanks to everybody on this Aegis team. Dave for bringing me on at the beginning of the year. Without him it ain't possible. Just everybody on this team. Dylan, I know the start of the Texas in the Chase, I was struggling. He showed me how to run the line. Carl Shed at Charlotte really showed me how to qualify there. Daniel, with the win I got at Talladega, that's all because of him. He sat down and ran so many AFIX races with me. And just everybody on this Aegis team. Steve did a great job on the box. He made a strategy call, and it almost worked. So a lot of credit to him for having the guts to even call it. My mom, my dad, my brother for building a computer, let me run this sim all year. Sean, he watches every single week. I can't say thank you enough to him. Just to everybody. LSRTV for broadcasting, and everyone who's just been a part of this 88 team all year. I can't say thank you enough to you guys.
All right, well, congrats on your good run here tonight, Andrew, and good luck in 2018.
Thank you so much.
That was Andrew Freenars. He's going to come home third in the championship battle here tonight. And James, I believe you've caught up with a driver that came just so very close to winning the championship here tonight. You've caught up with driver of the number 11, Dylan Jones, down on pit road.
Here with the number 11, Dylan Jones. And Dylan, the most bitter pill to swallow, I think. At least I've got to believe, given how good this car was all night long. So and say, take us through the decision to come down pit road and go get those 4 tires late in the going there with about 25 laps to go.
It was a bad decision. In hindsight, I thought they'd be short on fuel. And I thought if they weren't short on fuel, the amount they would have to save, I could catch them on tires. And I was almost right in both ways, but I was just a little bit wrong. And a little bit wrong, loses you championships, just like tonight.
That being said, as tough as this is to take, I think we can look on this season and look at a lot of positives for you. You came away with just an insane amount of success in the back half of this season. 5 victories in the last 11 races. That is a series best. Nobody else even came close to it. And you finished the season up with 17 top 5s, 19 top 10s. I know the stats are impressive in and of themselves, but are the numbers what you take away? What do you bring from this season into 2018?
Well, right now, those numbers you all read really mean nothing to me right now. I mean, after a week maybe of cooling down from screwing it up, you'll look back and the numbers will be promising, and it was a good season, obviously. Especially the end of the season for us. That was a really great run we were on. We had all the momentum coming in here to Homestead. We had everything on our side. I felt like thought we had the strategy. We were wrong. But I mean, it was a good season. Just it's not the way you want to end it. It's pretty disappointing trying to think about it.
Are there positives that you can look forward to in 2018 at this point? Anything that gets you excited on the horizon, or are you still in a mode where you just need to cool down for a week and let all this pass before you kind of get yourself back up in preparation for next year?
No, I look forward to next season. It's a little too far away. That's with some build changes coming out to the car, I think that'll be really interesting, and possible stage racing next season. There's a whole bunch of new wrenches that are going to be thrown into the mix that it's going to make it new and exciting again, and you have to start over and just make sure we do what we did this year, just end it out a little bit better. You got to go in, week out. It's a full season of races, full field of cars, a lot of competition. You just got to be consistent throughout the season and perform.
One final time then in 2017 in Full Throttle Cup Series competition. Dylan, go ahead and send your thank yous and your shout outs and your loves to the people and sponsors who make it happen for you and this number 11 team.
Big thanks to Julio for putting this Aegis team together. If it wasn't for him, probably not all of us would be racing in the league right now. So he definitely made this team happen and put all the great drivers here. Dave, Andy made me a cool paint scheme that I loved racing tonight. Andrew on his good finish tonight. I'm forgetting a bunch of names. My head's somewhere else tonight. Just want to thank all the drivers, everyone at LSRTV for putting this all on. It was a good season.
As much as it hurts, we thank you for the time, Dylan, for coming on and talking to us, and wish you the best of all seasons. Happy holidays and a happy new year, and we'll see you back again for Daytona 2018.
Yep, you too, guys. Later.
There's Dylan Jones, and I will scuttle down pit row with me and my generally teeny and short legs over to the pit box of the number 24 of Nick Silver, who comes out of absolutely nowhere to get a third place finish tonight, which ties your season best, Nick. So just talk about the pit strategy and how on earth you managed to come up through this field to get that job done.
Well, I was floundering around 13th or so all race, and was about there on the coming to the restart after that one yellow. And I knew it was going to be real close on fuel. Probably wasn't going to make it without saving some. So I decided to duck in there coming to 1 to green and make sure I was good on fuel so I could just go full blast while everyone else had to save.
And it finishes off a season for you in which you put together a pretty impressive record yourself there. 8 top 5s, 23 top 10s. A lot of consistency. I know the win number isn't quite where you wanted it to be, but you look at all that, and what do you take away from this season and try to use to build for in 2018?
I'll tell you, overall, it was a good season. Like you said, I was fairly consistent. Was hoping to at least get one win like previous season, but that didn't happen. So, all we got to improve on next year is just making sure we get that win and hopefully more than one at least, and get to the chase early and then focus from there.
And what do you have looking forward as the most exciting thing going into 2018 in the sim?
Just taking, what I learned this season and just improving where I can, and hopefully, we can be a force to be reckoned with next year.
Before we let you go, we'll, as always, give you one final chance here in 2017 to send your shout-outs, your thank yous, and your love to everybody that makes it possible for you and this number 24 team.
Well, I got to thank you guys for, doing the broadcasting and running this great league. Got to thank my teammate Sean Casto. He's always making me better, always helping me out. I feel like I help him out too. And got to say hi to my 2 fans that watch all season, my mom and my dad.
Well, congratulations to you, Nick, on your podium finish tonight and your great 2017. And we look forward to seeing you next year at the High Banks of Daytona to kick it all off in February.
Thank you, guys. Have a good winter.
So there's Nick Silver, and I will pass it back to Brian Macklin. And Mr. Macklin is in victory lane with the man who gets it done tonight after all that crazy pit strategy, the number 44 of Brandon Bowie.
Hey, I almost got lost trying to get down here to victory lane. I haven't been here in quite a while, but Brandon, congrats on the win. I know it's a little overshadowed by everything that was going on with the championship battle, but you are the man that came out on top here tonight. Take us through your night.
Yeah, Brian, it was actually it was a pretty calm night. Actually, it was interesting to kind of see how the championship unfolded. But for the most part, I just kind of just paced myself and kind of followed what the championship 4 were doing, and whatever they were going to do, I was going to try to do the opposite of it to give my chance, or to give myself at least a chance to actually win a race before the end of the year. And it looks like it worked in my favor.
And we saw in the closing laps of that race that David Comstock, David Washington, a handful of those other guys, they were dealing with some fuel concerns. Was there any concerns on the 44 machine, or did you feel pretty comfortable you were going to make it home with not without running out of fuel?
Actually, no. I didn't have any concerns at all. For the most part, I did have somebody basically giving me fuel as far as how much I needed at the line, but I think I came home with still about 2.5 laps still to the good. So I just did my saving. I didn't lose too much time, which was the goal, just to kind of keep the same pace. And once I heard that the Final 4 were having some fuel issues, I just set sail and went for the win.
And obviously this has got to be a bit of a bittersweet moment for you, because you were the first guy out as far would have been you on the championship stage instead of David Comstock. Was there anything that went through your head as far as that was concerned tonight?
I mean, there's always your hypothetical things that you can kind of think about. The situation at Texas, could I have run better at Martinsville to possibly get a win there? But at the end of the day, it didn't play in my favor. So, but I do know we can definitely take this momentum into the off season, into next year, and definitely go for more wins and focus on trying to make the Final Four so we can possibly get a championship in.
Well, there you go, and that's all you can really do. And Brandon, before we let you go for the final time in 2017, I want to give you an opportunity to say thank you to your sponsors and say hi to any friends or family. Who makes it happen for you on that number 44 machine, bud?
Definitely want to thank the fans who actually watch this series. I mean, they're some pretty cool fans to look at the comments and stuff on the feed. Definitely got to thank Lodestar Motorsports, Shane, Trey, Chris, basically everybody that makes it happen, even Kohler coming on board the last minute to help out. My family, kids, the man above, and thank you guys for once again putting on the broadcast for us.
All right, well, congrats on the win here to finish off the 2017 season, and we look forward to seeing you in Daytona here in just a few short months.
All right, thanks, Brian.
That was Brandon Bowie. He wins here in the season finale at Homestead, and I'm going to stay down here in Victory Lane and hang out with him and celebrate, but Cisco and James, I believe you got a little bit of a thing going on up on the championship stage. Take it away.
Up here in front of the fans on the front straightaway on the championship stage with the 2017 RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking Champion, Mr. David Comstock, who I'll admit by my estimation probably had about the third best car of the championship for a good chunk of this evening and finds a way to come out with the victory in the championship battle when it's all said and done. First off, Dave, just can you take us through the first half of the race when you all are all running green flag and Dylan and David are just out there and you're struggling for speed on the long green flag runs? Where was your head at that point? And did you feel like you had anything that you could do to get yourself back in contention?
I didn't think I had really anything. I was by far, like you said, their best car all race long. I struggled with tire wear. I was burning the right front off one run. Just overall, just speed in general. They didn't have it. And so I saw when that yellow came out, how many laps we had left, and decided just to go for it and try to save as much fuel as we needed to get. And we got this Gary Mercer Trucking JT Plex Chevrolet right across the line where we need to be.
So it was a conscious decision to try and save the fuel, and I've got to imagine that it was a conscious decision not to try and race David Washington at that point, especially after Dylan Jones came down pit road. So I guess first your reaction to Jones coming down pit road, and then just sort of your strategy in trying to race Washington and win, and how hard you tried to push him knowing that Jones would be coming on fresh tires.
I knew my fuel numbers where I needed to be, so every single 5-10 lap increment, so long as I was hitting what I needed to hit on that, I knew I was comfortable to make it. And I saw that it was getting closer down the race, and I started thinking where we have the issue where we don't have green white checkers, and it was getting to that point where if I'm not in position under 5 to go, yellow comes out, Washington's going to get it. So I felt pretty comfortable with how much fuel I had saved, and decided to start pushing it and get the position I needed. And I wasn't really concerned about Dylan, kind of. I mean, I saw he got by us with about 20-something to go, and I kind of thought in the back of my head he may get around to us to pass us on tires at the end, but I looked back through the field with about 15 or 10 15 to go, something like that, and I didn't see him, so I didn't quite worry about it too much. I just focused on what I still needed to do, and that was to save the fuel I needed, and we made it barely. I was doing my burnouts at the end there, and I ran out doing it, so we barely made it.
You barely make it, but you make it when you need to. You become the 2017 Full Throttle Cup Series champion. You also are, and I have had this confirmed by series statistician Jacob Seelman, the first man in the history of the Full Throttle Cup Series to win the Icebreaker and win the Full Throttle Cup in the same year. I know it's all really, really recent, and it probably hasn't sunk in just yet, but can you put into words at this stage what it means to be the Full Throttle Cup Series champion?
Oh, it's beyond words that I can really try to explain. I mean, it's really gratifying, I guess, the first word. It's rewarding just because of the amount of guys that race in this series and the caliber of the drivers that we have. First off, with John Abbott, with him running the league for all the time he's ran it, up until through the middle of this year. Thank you to him for running this league. Thank you to Brendan Mercer for showing me to this league and get me started in the involvement in the league. Thank you to him for getting me over here. And it's like I said, it's very rewarding, gratifying, and it's really cool to kind of sweep the whole season on that. And we got the Icebreaker coming up here in a couple weeks, so we'll start defending that championship for next year.
Yeah, and what do you look forward to now for next year? And now that you've done this, obviously the game plan is to try and go get it done again, but what's the most exciting thing you see on the horizon?
Just the competition in general. It seems to be getting better and better every single year, from the competition side to the broadcast side with you guys at LSRTV. It's just everything in general. Things are on the upward swing. So it's really, really fun to be a part of with this group, with everybody on all fronts. It's really, really enjoyable.
And as per tradition here on LSRTV, for every champion of every series that we broadcast, there is only one question that matters at the end of the year. So now you've earned your chance. David, what is your favorite sandwich? And since, we're kind of from the same area of the country, might it be from Cookout, perhaps?
Yeah, we could say it's a big double tray, yeah.
I count a burger as a sandwich. That works for me. Any other particular, like, deli-style ones that are your favorite?
Just a turkey sandwich.
Any good toppings?
The works.
With everything. Sounds like a pretty tasty lunch to me. So, before we let you get your thank yous and your shout outs in order, I believe that we have a little present for you. And to do the honors, we have the new technical owner of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series, who happens to be, surprise, our very own Cisco Scaramuzza.
Well, David, on behalf of presenting series sponsor Gary Mercer Trucking, as well as LSRTV LLC, Live Sim Racing LLC, all the managing members and all the contractors, everybody who makes this series happen, David, congratulations. You are the 2017 Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking champion. You'll be receiving not only a trophy from Go Figure JT Plaques, as well as a little bit of spending money as well. And just congratulations. You are the 6th different champion in 6 different runnings of the series. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And I know, I guess we've got the whole, David 3 code. I suppose that John Heinzman might have to change that a little bit after tonight and maybe make it David Champ or something. But besides JT Plaques, who all do you need to thank for tonight's championship run?
Again, Brendan Mercer. Without him showing me this league, I would not have been doing this. So thank you to him, first and foremost, and Gary Mercer Trucking. John Abbott, like I said, to him running the league, to now with you guys at LSR TV for not only broadcasting but also running the league now. Thank you to you guys. Monster Energy, JD Laird, JDR Graphics for his amazing artist wizardry that he is able to do for my car every single season and keeping it fresh every single week. Hick and Jix, EJ Brakes, all the fans all throughout the year. Thank you for your support and family. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it.
Well, David, congratulations on your 2017 Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking Championship, and we wish you a very happy holidays, a very happy new year, and we look forward to seeing you on the track here in not too long.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Have a good holidays. Also, thank you to all my friends for watching, too.
So there's your champion, Mr. David Comstock, the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series Man of the Hour at the moment. And from there, we turn our attention to a very special friend of LSRTV and the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series. One man who has been responsible for so much, the founder of RealSimRacing.com and all its leagues, and proprietor of the series up until the middle of this year when LSRTV bought it, Mr. John Abbott. And John, thank you so much for coming up here and giving us the chance to talk to you tonight.
Well, thank you, James. I appreciate y'all having me up in the booth. Really been a great season, and I want to say congratulations to David Comstock. When you're a champion of Full Throttle Cup, you've done something, because it's not easy to be a champion in this series by any means.
Now, for those who aren't aware, John has been working with Real Sim Racing in some capacity for nearly 20 years at this point, all the way back to the Papyrus days, and has got more connections with this series than anybody else. So before we take everything over full-time in 2018, we wanted to give you a platform here to give your shout-outs and your thank yous. We wanted to save it here for tonight and make sure that you got a proper platform and voice to do it. So, John, for everything that you've been able to accomplish in the last 2 decades, who do you need to thank for making this whole operation possible?
Well, James, first off, Keith Brooks Jr., he's the founder of Real Sim Racing back in, I think, 2001, 2002. And I came on board when Real Sim Racing started in iRacing, the iRacing platform. But Keith Brooks Jr. Was the founder, and then several admin have pitched in since 2011. Joey Jatina, Jimmy North, Steve Herring, Chad Cole, David Alonzo, Doug Manning. I hope I don't leave anybody out, but we've had Brennan Mercer. For sure, Brennan came on board a few years ago and really gave Full Throttle Cup a boost. Good shot in the arm with his sponsorship and all of his help with the series. And then here recently, Doug Atkinson came on this year, and he's been a big help. So I want to say thank you to Doug. So been so many people have helped out and deserve recognition for what they've done to start this series, not only start the series, but for it to thrive over the last 6 years. And it's really become a great tradition, something that a lot of drivers look forward to. I believe I looked earlier today, we've had 250 drivers have run in Full Throttle over the 6 seasons. I think we've had, I was trying to, has Comstock won a previous championship, or do we have 6 different champions?
I don't know if you count the Icebreaker, but no, 6 different Full Throttle Cup Series champion as per Cisco, I believe.
Yeah. Now, Icebreaker, I know Comstock and Chad Cole have pretty much dominated that series over the last several years. But anyway, also on the broadcast side, I want to thank the old ETV guys, John Westland and JD Webb. John, such as Cisco does now, he put in a ton of hours back when he was the producer at ETV. And so got to thank John, got to thank Laura Lawson. She came came into the picture when John retired, and then of course Cisco. So for this series to be successful, you have to have a dependable broadcast company, and you guys at LSRTV have done that. I mean, you've got to have producers that are going to be there every week, and we've had 3, John, Laura, and now Cisco, and they're very dependable, put on a great broadcast that the drivers can enjoy, and their families and fans. And then the broadcasters. I mean, we've had such great broadcasters, such as you, James, and Brian Macklin, and go back to Michael Batman Keaton, Wesley Outland, Austin Coop, I know has helped some. Brian Macklin, I may have mentioned him a little while ago. Evan Pasoka, I mean, we remember when Evan was just a little kid. If you go back and look at some of our broadcasts or listen to him in 2012, he sounds so much younger than he does now. So, I mean, Evan pretty much grew up with this series. And then, of course, we have so many people have pitched in to make this series successful, and I have confidence that you guys and LSRTV are going to continue the tradition with Full Throttle Cup and Icebreaker Series, and look forward to just being a driver and having fun and watching where it goes.
I tell you what, outside of one Jacob Seelman, who I know put a whole bunch of effort into this too as a broadcaster and a statistician, I think you really touched on just about everybody there, John. So full credit to you, but I'll make sure if you've got any last people that might need to touch on, or any words to Jacob in particular, because I know he's watching at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, I knew I didn't have any names written down, but how can I forget Jacob? I mean, out of all people, I mean, he may be the main one, but yeah, Jacob. I mean, what a job he did, and all of you really. I mean, I've always said Full Throttle Cup is, and me and the other admin used to talk about this back in the day. It's a story, and it's you're living a story. So when you come in and you race in this series, I mean, you're having to dedicate a lot of time away from your families on Monday night during this time slot. And it's a lot of commitment. I mean, to be a champion, it takes a lot of dedication, commitment, and talent, of course. But if you win a championship, you've done something. And David Comstock, I mean, he did something tonight, because it took a heck of a commitment. And all of those guys that were in the top 4, David, Dillon, and Andrew, I mean, they had to put in a lot of hard time this year to get to that point. So it's in a lot of respects, it's like real life when it comes to the commitment that it takes for everyone.
Well, I think you've touched on a lot there. I think on behalf of everybody at LSRTV, I think we're well aware of the kind of stories that we've had the privilege to tell, and I think I can speak for pretty much everybody here at the organization when I say that we have grown up with this series in a lot of ways as well. And this has been a cornerstone of our coverage here on LSRTV for many, many years now. It goes almost as far back as we go back. And I know the decision to purchase the series and take it going forward into 2018 was one that was not taken lightly, because we know a lot of people have built this up, and we've got a very, very strong tradition to carry on. So, John, I could say on behalf of everybody at LSRTV, thank you, and thank everybody with the Real Sim Racing name who's been associated with the organization over the years for all the work that we've done. And we at LSRTV are going to do our best to carry on the RSR name and the RSR level of competition and excellence that all the fans have come to see for years and years and years to come, as best as we can.
Yeah, look forward. Thank you, James.
Well, thank you, John, for your time tonight, too, as well. And we wish you a happy holidays, a happy new year, and look forward to seeing you here on the racetrack a little bit in 2018, because I know you won't be too far away from RSR wherever you are.
Looking forward to it. We'll see you on the track.
So there is John Abbott, one of the biggest men in the history of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series, and a man responsible for so much. A lot of people have made this work over the years, and a lot of people I think are going to get the chance to see something a little bit different too, and something a little bit fun coming into 2018. And we will have more information on what will go down with the Icebreaker Series and the 2018 Full Throttle Cup Series as we get closer to that point. But for now, Mr. Macklin, I think we are finally done with 2017 Full Throttle Cup Series championship action, save for the very obvious bit that I forgot that Cisco may or may not have nudged me, say that registration for both series is open up right now, and if you want to, go ahead on over to LiveSimRacing.com. If you like what you see and want to be a part of it for 2018, registration links are live, and we'd be more than happy to have you along for the ride. So, Mr. Macklin, and back to the main point here. 2017 is almost done and wrapped up. When you look back on this season, what sticks out to you, and what sorts of stories are you going to remember?
I think the parity at the top of this thing is the biggest thing, because we had so many different drivers that were legit contenders to try to go and win this championship this year. You had the obvious David Comstock going on to win the championship, but then you had guys like Dylan Jones, David Washington, Brandon Bowie, Daniel Everhart. Dwayne Vincent was a driver that was really strong this year. There were so many different drivers that had an opportunity, and it was hard looking at the 16 drivers that made it into the playoffs to pick one driver that you felt like was the favorite, and I really enjoyed that. And I've been covering this series for almost 3 years now, and this is the first time I feel like I've seen that many different drivers that had an opportunity to go out there and do it. So that was really cool to get to see, and I'm looking forward to what the Icebreaker Series brings. I'm looking forward to the Full Throttle Cup Series in 2018 and all the changes that LSRTV is putting forth to make that series even better than what it already is. And I gotta say thank you to everybody here at LSRTV for giving me the opportunity to do this, because without you guys I wouldn't have had the opportunities I've had, and I'm so glad I got to work with you this year, James, and of course Cisco over the last couple of seasons. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to what we have coming up.
Well, I will say, I'll openly admit, when I came on the broadcast in 2016 here at Homestead, and I recognized that I was taking over for Jacob Seelman, of all people, I had big shoes to fill. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but over the course of my first full season behind the microphone for 2017 coverage of the Full Throttle Cup Series, it's been a lot of fun in a lot of ways. I think I've learned a lot. I think I've seen a lot. I think we've all seen a lot here in what this series can be, what sim racing can be, and we've seen a lot of things. We saw super teams come together to make it happen. We saw guys get into it on the track and maybe not like each other so much. We saw a lot of really talented guys go out there and go get some really, really impressive wins. But all in all, just been a joy and a complete privilege to be on the broadcast here of the Full Throttle Cup Series on LSRTV, and I look forward to being back in 2018 to do it all again. So, I think we can finally go ahead and wrap up our coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series, presented by Gary Mercer Trucking on LSRTV, your home for sim racing for the 2017 season. A big thank you, as always, to my colleague up in the booth, Mr. Brian Macklin, for being here with me all season long, and to our master of the virtual production trailer, the lovely and talented Cisco Sconuzo, for bringing you all the fine graphics and camera work that you have seen week in and week out. Another big round of thanks to our race directors, Kyle Barnes and Doug Atkinson, for stepping up in the control tower and keeping things moving smoothly all season long. And of course, on this night, A million thanks to John Abbott and everybody who's been behind RSR for the last 15 years for everything that they have done to make this series what it is today, because it is so important to us and to them, and it is a relationship that we look forward to carrying on as we take over full control of the Full Throttle Cup Series as we head into 2018. So, for one last time in 2017, for Brian Macklin, for Cisco Scarmuzza, for Kyle Barnes, Doug Atkinson, and for Laura Lawson, DJ Lyon, and Evan Pasoko at LSRTV, I am James Pike. Thank you so much for watching our coverage of the Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series all season long. And before we go, a quick reminder, you can catch coverage of the iRacing Pro Series from Homestead, Miami here on LSR TV tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, as you watch the stars of the ladder to the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series battle it out for a place in the 2018 main game at the highest level of NASCAR sim racing. And you can tune in next week to see the beginning of the 2017-18 RealSimRacing.com Icebreaker Series live from Daytona, featuring the Xfinity car, and it will be at the same time we run, 9:35 Eastern Standard Time here on Facebook, YouTube Live, and Twitch. We at LSR TV and RealSimRacing.com wish you a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year, and we will see you right back here in February 2018 for the opener of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking at Daytona. We look forward to seeing you then. Until that point, good night.